Good evening and welcome to Mile High Huddle. I'm Scott Kennedy with Zack, Kelberman, and we're going to bring in our Facebook groups as well. And I want you to listen very, very carefully. Zack, if you listen closely, you can hear it. It's breathing. I can hear the stream breathing. I'm letting it breathe, and they're all online right now.
Baby. There we go. I was going to say, I'm not letting you get away with just saying it's breathing. I want the full kit and caboodle, Scott, and you delivered. I am pumped right now. Welcome in, guys, to the Thursday. Used to be the game preview edition of the Huddle Up Podcast, the end of the week now edition of the Huddle Up Pod. I am Zack Kelberman, joined by Scott Kennedy, who's filling in once more for Chad Jensen, who's recovering from his bout with the bug that shall go unnamed. Scott, you did BFB earlier today. How are you doing in the nighttime now?
What is it? Not all I see are lights in my eyes, so I don't know what time it is, what day it is. And for those of you that are concerned about Chad, don't be. He's doing fine. He's actually in the background, kind of in the seats on the ones and twos at the beginning. So Chad's okay. Just kind of felt like crap a little bit, and his throat just isn't quite ready to come on and talk for 35, 40 minutes. Depending on, how windy Zack is on any given night, could be 15 to 50. So Chad is doing fine, and everybody he appreciates the concern, and we appreciate that he is doing better. But yeah, it's there's a song by Korn where it's called "It's Me Again." That's kind of how I feel like with the Broncos for breakfast and doing the Mile High Huddle. It's a lot of the same folks, but it's a lot of different names and faces. So I've really enjoyed having this opportunity to say hello to everybody that does the evening show that isn't able to see us in the morning.
Yeah, we have some Facebook comments we couldn't get to on last night's show, and we always want to make it up to you guys who contribute. So we're going to pull that up right now and acknowledge where we're at right now, Scott, if you want to go over that.
Yeah, Chad's bringing this up right now, and normally I'm in the background making sure and hammering these guys, saying, hey, make sure we don't forget our Facebook people. But I had mentioned a couple days ago with Michael Ronquillo had a monster Stars day. I think it was Tuesday morning on Broncos for breakfast that it was really going to push us closer to our goal. And you see we're at 55% and we're on the 20th. So we're just under about 63, 64%. We're at 55%. So we're good. But in the last day, so let's leave it right there for the last 24 hours because there were some really big star givers, and I don't feel like we got to show everybody. We got to say hello to just about everybody, but I want to make sure that we're giving these folks a shout out. Rodney Garcia, big time. Jacob Foster, Miguel, Mark Schrader. I felt like that was a new name coming in. Zebulon, Omega, Kevin Lynn, Lana Carter, another of the ladies of MHH, Shane Daniels, Phil McLaughlin, Peter Middleton, Jermaine Daughtry, Elliot Shawn, Torrey Thomas, another new name for us, Michael Ranquillo, Mike Reno, Ruben Avita, and DeAngelis Jones. So again, thank you so much, and apologies that we didn't get to show you all last night. We'll always try and make it up for you. We certainly don't take you for granted by any stretch of the imagination.
Kind of off topic, Scott, but you mentioned Korn, and I'm not the biggest rock guy, as you found out the other night before the podcast, but there was one Korn song. Can you refresh my memory as to when I was a kid, when MTV actually played music still, I remember the Korn song, and I can't think of it right now.
Probably did Twisted Transistor was one of those. Liar is one of my favorite songs. I'm like, it tells you a lot about my musical taste when like 5 of the bands I listen to all have the song called Enemy. I listen to a lot of angry rock. I like stuff, but it's not just that. I like stuff with passion. If it's got some guts to it, I'm probably gonna like it.
Is there any other kind of rock other than angry and expressive and emotive? I don't think so.
Freak on a Leash is one that
that's what it is. That's what it is. Freak on a Leash. There you go. Okay, that was a good song.
Yeah,
I want to play that now.
So I want to see Disturbed and Korn. We'll get off music here in a second, I promise. I want to see Disturbed and Korn, and Disturbed's actually one of my favorite bands. But Korn, I thought, put on the better show. So I enjoyed the entertainment value of seeing someone live. Like, if you took me to see Grateful Dead or something like that, or who is the Grateful Dead? Widespread Panic, the one of those I Want to Be a Grateful Dead band. Man, just put me to sleep. I'll listen to their music, but let's go shoot pool or something. But Korn was really good in concert. With that note, we'll move on here.
I don't want to just yet, Scott. You tell me. I'm having fun with this conversation. Forget football for a second. You tell me the best concert you've ever been to, and I'll tell you that for me.
Oh, I don't know. The best concert I've ever been to.
And let us know in the comments, guys.
The best moment I ever had. See, MTV ruined concerts because rock bands got lazy and they would just show their concerts live, so there were no surprises anymore. The coolest moment I ever remember wasn't Tommy Lee in his spinning drum cage, because that had been shown 100 times with Motley Crue, a zillion times on MTV. But it was the next one. That was Girls, Girls, Girls. It was the next tour that came out, and it was the Dr. Feelgood tour, and it was Atlanta was right at the beginning, and the place went dark at the old Omni, and all of a sudden the lights go to the very top middle of the, and here comes Tommy Lee dropping out like Spider-Man playing the drums in a spinning drum cage coming down.
That's cool.
That was the coolest moment I ever remember going to a Odom concert. It just blew my mind. I think it was 15 years old or so. Just awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm like I said, I'm more of a rap guy, but what's ironic is that two of the best concerts I've ever been to were rock. The first one was Tom Petty when he was alive. It was an indoor. I don't like standing outside and sweating and standing. I like having a seat in the air conditioning, and it was indoors in a big arena, and there was so much smoke in the air, and I'm not talking about cigarette smoke, and he played Refugee. It was unreal. And also Linkin Park. They put on a really, really good show when before Chester passed away, unfortunately. But
the last show at the old Omni was 3 hours of Metallica. They didn't have an opening band. They played for 3 hours. That was a pretty dang good show. Those guys can bring it without a doubt. Speaking of bringing it,
let's get off the subject.
Jesus comes in and says, hopefully that Legwald report is true and it ends up being Hackett or any of the remaining offensive-minded coaches. Now, Zack, for those of us that haven't read the Legwald report, can you let us know exactly what Christian is talking about here? And Christian, appreciate your support.
We should probably pull up the article that Chad wrote because it's doing really well right now on MHH Analytics. Basically, it was a radio interview, and he is the ESPN Broncos reporter, Jeff Legwald, veteran of the game. So what he says is worth paying attention to. And he was asked about the reports that the Broncos are zeroing in or targeting heavily Dan Quinn, and they've had no other discussions. That's their guy, and he pushed back against that. He said, not at all. I don't get that vibe. I don't get that feeling. He intimated, in other words, that it's still an open competition. Even Steven, to quote Vic Fangio, and they don't have any predestined choice in mind like Dan Quinn. Of course, it's one person's opinion, but as plugged in as Legwald is, it's worth bearing in mind. I do like how he called him or he at least furthered the notion that Dan Quinn could be Vic Fangio light. There are some similarities. I don't think completely they are alike in their personalities, as we laid out on yesterday's pod. They're nothing alike, but some of the national media, it's not just us or the fan base, there are some drawing comparisons to Vic and Quinn as to why the Broncos might want to go with an offensive mind.
Yeah, and it was right here. It's like Dan Quinn right now is the toughest one to explain to the new people. It's almost Vic Fangio light. You see the pushback that people are getting, and we know that. We've got our finger on Broncos country probably better than Legwald does, but he understands that right now people want something totally different. They want a complete 180. Now I've gone. Excuse me. I've said, the personalities are a complete 180. Pete Carroll and Vic Fangio are nothing alike, except they both coach defense. And he's much closer to Pete Carroll with his energy and his youthful enthusiasm. Pete Carroll from 30 years ago than Vic Fangio. But you say defense, people don't want to hear it right now. I'm tired of defense, and I understand. I get that. 100%. And that probably is going to be the toughest sell, but if it ends up being Dan Quinn, there are a lot of things to like there for sure.
Yeah, and if they do hire him, we'll have a whole podcast, if not multiple podcasts, breaking down what he brings to the table, which is a lot, and I think it would be an upgrade on Vic Fangio. But there was another comment that Legwald made that he said it's the toughest to sell to the fan base, and I think that's such a great point to keep in mind. You're talking about selling tickets. You're talking about filling Empower Field next year. A new owner, a new coaching staff, new quarterback more than likely. You want the energy on the sidelines. You want the draw among the coaching staff. I don't think Dan Quinn is that draw. I think someone like Hackett, Kellen Moore, Eric Bieniemy, Brian Callahan, any of these guys would be a bigger draw to the fan base, and someone like Legwald at least understands that.
And speaking of drawing, Pobby is coming in with permanent marker drawing for us. Pobby came back and saw us on Broncos for Breakfast on Tuesday morning. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Mile High Huddle. I'm not Chad Jensen, in case there was any doubts. I have a little bit more hair, not quite as good looking.
Shots fired.
But Pobby, we're so glad you're back. And I know you've had some trouble. Nick has let me know. You have a much longer relationship with the other folks. But we're glad you're here and hope things are going well.
Well, Scott, you know that we have the Queen Christy, we have the Duchess Michaela. Pobby is the princess of the Huddle Up podcast, and she earns her title very, very well. It's good to see you, Pobby. I hope your life is going as well as could be right now in this crazy world. I hope all your personal affairs are in order, and we so appreciate your support and your continued generosity. You are incredible. It's good to see you. Hope you stick around with us going forward.
Yep, welcome back. Mark came in last night. He come in with some more stars. Says, evening, guys. Evening, Mark. Appreciate you being here, and thank you for the stars. One other thing I wanted to say about this is my 6th show in 4 days. My voice is starting to go too. The other thing that's a hard sell about Dan Quinn is, what do people think of when they think of Dan Quinn?
Super backwards Bowl. Hat.
No, it's the Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons. It's 28-3. I don't even like saying it. 28-3. That is what people remember. They look over there and say, what? He was a 500 coach in Atlanta and had the biggest choke job in the history of sports. I don't know if there's a bigger one. And I'm not talking just football. I'm talking about sports. Now, there's a lot that goes into it, but that's the other part. It's like, we're going to get a defensive guy that was head of that disaster? Really? And that's a tougher sell. I get it. So all along, I haven't been advocating for Dan Quinn. I've just been trying to say, and this is hardly a sell, Zach. It's not as bad as you think. It really isn't.
And the other thing more recently that he's synonymous with is Dallas's playoff game. I mean, you talk about 2 auditions that Dan Quinn's had in terms of Broncos country, their exposure to him. It was the Week 9 contest, which Denver blew the doors off Dallas, including their defense, and also what Dallas did in the playoffs, which was roll over and get whipped pretty much by the 49ers, and they tied an NFL postseason record with 14 penalties. His defense was beatable in that game, and if Jimmy Garoppolo can beat you, a lot of other quarterbacks could as well. So those are the drawbacks to someone like Quinn, and it might not be fair. He has more to his abilities than just 2 games, the Super Bowl and the playoff game, but it doesn't matter to Broncos country. It's what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, it's a Twitter generation that people can hardly get to the end of 160 carriers. Exactly. The memory is short, and the good part of that is most of the people now remember that game for something else, and it may have kicked Kellen Moore in the soft spots a little more than Dan Quinn because of the way that game ended. But I agree. I think of the guys coming in. And he's a tougher sell because he's the only one with any head coaching experience, which means if you're a head coach, you've been fired, there's reasons why you were fired. There were bad things, but being fired in the NFL means squat to a certain extent. I mean, everybody's been fired. If you took everybody off the list that had been fired, you wouldn't have anybody to interview. Why? What did he learn from? And I think maybe the biggest lesson he could have learned was that he needs to be a little more ruthless. He needs to be, he's loyal to a fault, which is players love him for. The coaches that have coached for him, I haven't heard a bad thing about Dan Quinn, the person, but he could be a little more ruthless. There's a phrase I use all the time. I said, I don't mind an ass. I can't stand a hypocrite. Bill Belichick, I don't want to play golf with the guy. Nick Saban, don't need to have him over for dinner, but by God, I respect the heck out of him. It's the ones that it's the Urban Meyers of the world that try and say that we're better than you, and then he's a dirtbag. Those are the ones I don't like. Being a little ruthless isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned having the pulse of the fan base, and I wrote an article earlier today for Heavy, and we might as well get on it now about Dan Quinn. He has an interview coming up. Well, they've put in an interview request, the Giants have, for Dan Quinn. And when I posted that story, I got comments saying, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, let that be the case. Let the Giants take him. Not a lot of Broncos country wants Dan Quinn. I think it's a smaller minority that wants a third straight defensive coach and doesn't want the Broncos to finally gamble with the offensive guys. So it would be a tough sell, I think, for Peyton.
Yeah, Michael coming with some big stars, and Rodney as well. So thank you guys. And Michael says, "Good evening, Zack and Scott on Mile High Huddle. Go Broncos."
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of that goes around. Like I said, when you fail on the biggest stage the way Dan Quinn did, that's what most people are going to remember. It's like, this guy wasn't anything special with the Broncos. But if I want to make a comparison like that, a small enough sample size, I can prove anything. Bill Belichick wasn't much with the Cleveland Browns. If you go 500 with the Cleveland Browns, if you go 500 with the Detroit Lions, if you go 500 and reach a Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons, you did something right. These aren't the alpha franchises of the world whose birthright is to go to the Super Bowl. It's been twice. And I always kind of joke that as an Atlanta sports fan, especially the Falcons, really all you're asking for out of the season is just not to be embarrassed to be an Atlanta Falcons fan. In '98, we made it 364 days right up until the day before the Super Bowl, and our Walter Payton Man of the Year person goes out and gets arrested for soliciting oral sex from an undercover cop. Thanks, Eugene. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then the second time they go to the big show, 28-3. It's bad. So the fact that you fail in Atlanta doesn't mean you're a failure. I promise you.
How do I follow that one up? There's no way I can. Anyway, changing the subject.
Choke jobs. I got the solicitation.
You got choke jobs and something else, Scott. We're talking about. This is a wild podcast tonight. Guys, I want to give a quick update as to the Broncos interview requests and candidates and things that are going on with that. Today they talked to Brian Callahan, the Bengals OC. That was a remote interview, and they were also in LA to talk to Rams OC Kevin O'Connell for an up-close sit-down. They have one more interview, and that's tomorrow with Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs OC. And then after that, like Mike Kliss said, ... It could be Saturday. We have a new head coach in Broncos country. It could be Sunday. It could be second interviews next week. But they're quickly exhausting all of their meetings, and the white smoke will be pluming out of Dove Valley soon enough.
The white smoke. Good call out to the Pope there. Well, we've got it all on this show.
Trying to make it a little more sanctimonious after the
We've got 90s
talk.
Super Bowl arrests.
Yeah.
Where else are you going to get this kind of entertainment? For goodness sakes. Miguel coming in with some talking about some of the interview candidates and such. Yeah. Miguel comes in with some stars and says, "Sup, fellas? Do you think there's serious interest in Eric Bieniemy, or do you think it's more of the Rooney Rule?" I would think there would be serious interest in that guy, don't you?
They already fulfilled the Rooney Rule. Aaron, Glenn, and Mayo. I mean, that's over with.
That sounds like a sandwich.
We're on.
I don't know. If you look at me and my age and skin tone, I don't like talking about Rooney Rule stuff. That I'm uncomfortable with that conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of an archaic, stupid rule in the NFL. But no, I think there is legitimate interest. I think Peyton wants to see, what is this guy's deal? Why is he an assistant underneath Mahomes with arguably the best offense in the NFL under Andy Reid, skin in the game, Colorado product? What is his deal? Are the rumors true? Does he interview that badly? Is there more to Eric Bieniemy that we don't know? I think they want to do some intel. I don't know if he's a super legitimate candidate. I still think it's down to Dan Quinn and Nathaniel Hackett, but if anything, you can glean some insight into how Kansas City operates and maybe how Eric Bieniemy, his vision for his offense. There's no harm. There's only positive to talking to him. It's
a little strange to me. I don't know how many offensive coordinators I can remember that weren't also the quarterback's coach. That's a little odd to me. That he's not doing that. It's like, we talk about, Chad, I've heard you say emphatically the most important thing that you're looking for is someone that can come in and develop a quarterback. Well, he's not even the quarterback coach, so you run an Andy Reid system and Kafka's the quarterback's coach, and what do I need this guy for?
Right.
I know there's more to it than that, but if we're looking at, dot, the dot here, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me for what we're looking for. Claude comes in. He's going back to our throwing some stars down, talking some going back through the back part of the chat here. There's a lot of music talk here. We got some music fans. Said Claude says, I still have scars from the Godsmack concert in 01. Best show ever. Try and explain a mosh pit to someone that doesn't get it. And they never will. It's like trying to explain cricket to me. I'm sorry, I don't have much interest. I'm not going to figure it out. But mosh pits were awesome. Talk about an awesome way to blow off steam. And the code of the mosh pit was a lot of fun.
I don't, after the Travis Scott concert, I'm kind of avoiding mosh pits in my life going forward. But Sam Bam, $20 super. Thank you so much, Sam. Good to see you tonight. Hope you're having an amazing Thursday. Sam says, hey, Broncos country. Hope everyone is feeling all right. I myself am under the weather, not CV as well. Sorry to hear that. Hope you're feeling better, Sam. Hopefully soon. So hope Chad and all those that are sick get to feeling better soon. Go Broncos. In parentheses, my bet is still on Hackett being the head coach. Appreciate you, Sam, and feel better. Plenty of vitamin D, plenty of zinc, plenty of multivitamins, and plenty of rest, and you'll feel better.
Yeah, get some rest and feel better. It is the season that it goes around, whatever it happens to be. They call it the cold and flu season for a reason.
We have a comment here from Bradley Dunton, $4.99 super. And let me tell you something, Scott, about Bradley. He showed up to the meet and greet in week 3, and he was the most entertaining personality. Introduced himself. Used to be his handle. I'm Bradley, the bus driver. BD. bus driver. He was a great guy. It was so good hanging out with you, Bradley, for that period. And we hope you're doing well. $4.99. Appreciate you. Hey, Zack and Scott, you football priests are doing a great job without the great input from Chad. Hashtag MHH4L. Hashtag Hackett and Aaron Rodgers. We got to get you a hat, Scott. We got to get you something.
Something that remind me for a prediction. Remind me at the end to the hat. I know I've already gotten comments on the shininess here, so it's actually not that shiny. Yeah, I got a big forehead. I was a wicked header of the ball playing soccer. So
yeah, so did Peyton Manning. Or he does have a big forehead, so it could be worse.
The camera's up higher like this too, so it's all angle.
Yeah,
I got a big forehead. I say, big brain, big forehead.
Exactly.
So the first time I went on TV, it was, 2002, 2003. I'm 30 years old, man's man. No, I don't need any makeup. What are you talking about? Why are there headlights coming out of my forehead when I saw myself on TV? I mean, bang. I was like, yeah, go ahead and let's powder this thing up. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely got to get you some attire. But we got Friendly Giant, $5 super. Thank you so much, Friendly Giant. And the friendly in your name is definitely appropriate. Keep up the great work, guys. Friendly Giant says, the best head coaches are both leaders and a 12th player on the field. Not sure Quinn offers the latter. Hashtag state of being. One comment I wanted to make, Scott, is why is Dan Quinn being built up as this legendary defensive mind like Bill Belichick in his prime? You can argue he was carried to a Super Bowl in Atlanta by Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan. He was carried to a Super Bowl in Seattle by the Legion of Boom, the front seven they had, Pete Carroll, the offense, and this and that. I get that he's a good coach. I get that he's a good leader. He has an infectious personality. Ties to George Paton, all of that. Did good work in Dallas this year, but let's not confuse him with the greatest defensive mind to ever live or breathe. He has definite warts to his game, and that's why we talked about coaches being fired. He was fired from Atlanta for a reason. And I know you talk about winning in Atlanta is hard, Scott, but in the scope of the NFL, when you used it to that barometer, what was his coaching record? 45-43, something like that,
or 42-43, something like that. Yeah, it was right. It was. I think it was just under 500, or it was within a game or two.
He's not this, oh my God, slam dunk, I have to have Dan Quinn as the next head coach of the Broncos over the other guys. Is he an upgrade on Vic? Potentially, yeah, but that's not, so would you be, Scott. So would I be. It's not hard to be an upgrade when you don't know how to challenge a play or call a timeout, when you ignore your offense, when you hate your quarterbacks. By virtue of Dan Quinn not being those things, that's an upgrade. But I just, the legend that he's forming within the Broncos fan base is getting a little carried away, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't see that. His best traits to me aren't schemes. His best traits to me, however, are what translates to being a good head coach, which is the energy. So when when Friendly Giant comes in and says the best head coach, I'm not sure that Quinn is the 12th player on the field. Actually, I think that's really, honestly, his best quality when it comes to being the one that's going up and chest bumping people. The energy that he has, that he can inflect in his team, and the way he can bring the best out of people. That's more important. That's a bigger trait for him than his scheme. I think in that sense, he could actually be a better head coach than defensive coordinator, because his best traits translate to leadership, not necessarily, I'm the Mike McDaniel of the world, the egghead who's just a better schemer than him. That's not Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's a guy that gets people to want to run through brick walls for him. That's Dan Quinn.
Yeah, but if that's his biggest selling point, is that his energy and personality, why not hire Nathaniel Hackett, who has the same type of personality, and he's of the offensive mind, and he's a little younger. It was I think, more upside, more ceiling with someone like Hackett, who would bring aboard Luke Getsy as well, probably as OC. I think that's the way to go.
I think the question is, and we talked about this, and I want to bring it back up, is can he put a staff together? Do we know that Hackett can put a staff together and be the guy in charge? Got a pretty good idea Dan Quinn can do that, but can Nathaniel Hackett? You never know. Someone's got to be first. This guy's going to get a head coaching job probably this year, but you don't necessarily know that. You don't know that for sure, and there's a little bit more uncertainty there. But I'm with you. I would probably rather have Hackett for this team than Dan Quinn.
Yeah, for sure. Randy N hopping in, just got in. Who did the Broncos interview today? So we're about halfway through the podcast. We talked about it like 10 minutes ago, but I'll go through it once more for you guys. The Broncos had 2 more interviews today for head coach. They are up to 9 out of the 10. They talked to Brian Callahan, Bengals OC today, and Kevin O'Connell, Rams OC today. Not much has come out about how the interviews have went, but they have 1 more to go tomorrow with Eric Bieniemy before Kansas City has their first playoff game. After that, heading into the weekend, it's we're on watch, we're on notice until that report comes out, unless they want to have second interviews. But I don't get that feeling, Scott. Maybe you have something different, in your gut about second interviews or what Paton wants to do. I think he gleaned what he's going to glean from these guys this past weekend. He already has his mind semi-made up.
I think it depends on who else needs to be involved in the hiring process. He's probably leaning. He was definitely leaning. Like we've talked about it all the time. You hear me say it all the time. The bias. You're already leaning one direction before you even start this process, because the type of people that do this, that are general managers or planners, he's got a list of the 10 quarterbacks he wants to go after, the 10 coaches, if he gets turned down, who he should go. That's just how they work. But to go in and interview 10 people and do it all and be done with it as soon as you're done with the 10th interview, I don't know. I don't think we'll see it as soon as this week. However, I also said we'd probably wait until Black Monday to get rid of Fangio, and he was gone Sunday morning when the sun came up.
It doesn't seem like Peyton's one for time wasting, but this is a good question by Trevor, and I'm glad you brought this up, Trevor. I appreciate it. He goes, Zach, if Peyton hires Quinn, what grade would you give Peyton? And Trevor knows, and a lot of you guys know, I'm a huge Peyton guy. I think he had an A- or maybe even an A grade for his first year as Broncos GM. He's really done no wrong to me, and I don't say that as a homer or with bias. I think he's been a great GM through year 1. That being said, though, if he were to go with Dan Quinn, I think that's a mistake. I do. I can get on board. I can talk myself into it. Quinn would be an upgrade on Vic. I just think it's the wrong move for what the Broncos need. You finally have an opportunity to hit that reset button. You have a great crop of offensive-minded candidates, and you're going to go with a retread defensive mind for the 3rd time in a row. I get he has experience, but it's just not what the Broncos need. So what grade would I give that hire? Incomplete until I see Quinn. I just think it's the wrong choice. Overall, I think that would bump it down to a B.
And that's really what any grade gets. Same with draft classes. You can say, okay, this made sense at the time when you're talking about acquisitions of talent, especially in the draft. Say, I'm going to give this grade, this draft class a B because this made sense. But obviously, we're going to have to go back and regrade when all said is done. The hiring of Dan Quinn would feel anticlimactic to me. It would just feel. Really, you had a chance to, this is your first hire. You're coming in to put your stamp on this franchise as a general manager, and you went with Dan Quinn. All right. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and let's see how it turns out. That's instead of yes, excitement and everybody's really psyched. Everybody's just kind of like, huh, I don't know
Here we go
about
again.
that. But if you're making decisions based on public sentiment, you're not going to be in your job very long. So, what the Broncos need and who all could come in with it, he knows that better than anything. I'm not a trust the coaches guy, but we don't know all the information. But for me, it would be anticlimactic.
And you know what's annoying about it as well? If they go with Quinn, it was preordained. As soon as Paton got that job, considering his ties to Dan Quinn, everyone was speculating that Quinn would be the next Broncos coach. So they're going to go through 10 interviews. They're going to line up all these candidates, get Broncos country excited, and leave them hanging and go with another defensive mind. I just think that would be a disservice to the interview process, to the fan base, and to the team going with a third straight defensive mind. But we shall see what happens. We have Nathan Scott. That's you for the last name. I don't do those. Leituala. That's above my pay grade, but we appreciate you, Nathan. $2 super. Thank you so much. He goes, good evening, Priest Zack and Deacon Scott. How do you feel about that? Deacon
Scott?
Like
Deacon. Is a deacon ahead of the priest? I'm not real religious. I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. And yes, there is a difference.
It reminded me, I don't know if you ever watched Daniel Tosh stand up, but he once had a joke when a girl says, I'm not spiritual, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. He goes, I'm not honest, but you're super interesting. It just kind of reminded me of that. But anyway.
I've never heard anybody else really say that before. So no, there is a difference. And that's a longer story. But Deacon, I like Deacon. I can go up with that. I don't know if I've earned it yet. It seems like a high title for me.
Deacon Scott. We'll get the hat made up. Football Priest and the Deacon, all in the hashtag. We got Jacob hopping in with, give me the. We get a gesture for big stars.
Yeah, it was good that we're behind enough that some of my Facebook stuff has bounced. But I know George Fox has come in. That was 23 minutes ago. So if I go to 8:37, they said there'd be no math. Rodney was in a bunch. George has been in a bunch. Still talking about
Woodstock. Wow.
The music scene.
That's the GOAT of concerts right there. Woodstock '69.
Yeah. That was until I was thinking about Perry Farrell just the other day in the original. What did they call that? It was the big. Conglomerate of bands. It was one of the first ones they'd done in a long time, but Perry Farrell at Jane's Addiction was the one that put all that together. Someone else helped me out. I've already forgotten. It was about when I was in high school. So in the late 80s, early 90s. So someone will help me out by the time I get bound to that one. Tabitha coming in.
Oh, my bad.
More of our ladies of MHH. Appreciate you coming in, Tabitha. The support coming in a few times. So thank you so much. And then Dave Glassman says, Scott, you've been a great addition to MHH. Thanks for all you do. If I can find you. So normally I'm behind trying to find these. Dave. I apologize, y'all. I read it. Dave, there we go. I'll find it later. Dave, thank you so much for the kind words.
And I think it was Lollapalooza. Is that what you're looking for?
That's it. Thank you. Lollapalooza. So that was Gen X version of Woodstock.
Getting back onto football, Jay Stylos, keep Ed Donatel for defensive coordinator. He has an interview actually coming up. I don't know when it's taking place, if it already took place, but I read yesterday that the Seattle Seahawks want to talk to Donatel about their opening after they fired Ken Norton Jr. And I think it's really interesting that Ed Donatel got an interview for DC before Vic Fangio did. Make of that what you will.
Well, what I make of it is Vic might not be answering his phone while he's counting his money. He's got he got probably a $6 million payout. Ed needs the job a little more than Vic does right now, so his agent might be a little busier. Andrew Baker comes in, says, "Get well soon, Chad. Still love the Zack and Scott show those." So, what's your division round winners? This is a good round of playoffs. I said the only two teams I feel like really don't have a chance are to move into the Super Bowl are the Bengals and 49ers. So therefore, we'll probably have a 1990-ish, give or take a year, rematch in the Super Bowl of the 49ers and the Bengals. I feel like the AFC Championship game is this weekend. I know Tennessee went 4-0 against those teams, but I feel like the Chiefs and Bills are the two best teams, and I do like the Bills. I do. I just think they're tougher. And then coming out of the other side, the Bucks. I like the Bucks, Rams, and Packers. And right now, I kind of like the Packers. If Packers 1, Rams 1B, and Buccaneers 1C. So, but it feels wide open for the first time. It's not, oh yeah, Tom Brady. Hopefully somebody will beat the Bengals. I'm gonna turn and watch something else. That's the Patriots.
Aren't the Bucks playing the Rams though this weekend?
It's 49ers and Packers. Yeah, so it is. It's
I got Packers and Rams. I think Von Miller, playoff Von, is activated, and when Stafford doesn't turn the ball over and they can run the ball with Cam Akers and Sony Michel, they are a tough team to beat. So
I think the Bucks are a little banged up too.
Yeah, Chris Godwin, that injury really hurt them. The running backs are hurt. They don't have it this year. They won a title already. Let someone else, like you mentioned yesterday, let someone else have the shine. I'm with you that I think this championship game in the AFC is this weekend. I'm going to take Kansas City, though. I could see it going either way for sure, but when you have a team like Buffalo that laid eggs, definite eggs, like to Jacksonville, I'm just not... I'm not quite there yet. Plus, you have Dayball interviewing with other teams, and he's close to getting a job. You think about the loss of focus there. I could see the Bills winning this game, but I just think Mahomes is still Mahomes, and that defense
Too
is
much
been
emotional
stronger.
capital spent on blowing out the Patriots. That was their Super Bowl.
True.
Maybe.
Good point.
There could be a natural letdown there. Or in hindsight will tell us, or they take that momentum and they ride it. The belief, and they ride it. We'll see. But Andrew, thank you so much for the stars and being a big supporter of the show.
And let us know in the comments what your predictions are, Andrew.
Yeah, throw them in there. We're Rodney coming in a bunch as always, and then the Hire Hackett Fund. Ethan, our DWI guys, has been funding the Hire Hackett Fund on Broncos for Breakfast. So I'd listen to what he has to say because he ran the Fire Fangio Fund, the triple F hashtag, through Mile High Huddle for a month, and it came to fruition. So the Hire Hackett hashtag seems to be working very well. Oh, no. Miguel, I used to like you. System of a Down and Phoenix System. I hate System of a Down.
Was that Let the Bodies Hit the Floor? Is that them?
No. That was Drowning Pool. That's a cool song.
Okay.
System of a Down has this lead singer named Serge or something like that is so impressed with himself, it's nauseating. He just thinks he's I'm glad you're going to like it. Not for me. So have fun and thank you for the stars.
Yeah, I know I'm embarrassing myself. I've never been like a rock. Oh, they were Chop Suey. I love that song. Was that them?
I don't know. I don't know. They try to be like.
You guys are stoking my nostalgia tonight.
Okay. They try to be a little something of everything without being much of anything. And the guy thinks he's like this opera voice, and they're just, I couldn't stand him.
Damn, the hate is real. But yeah, apparently they were Chop Suey. I do like that song. I will say that. But what else we got, Scott, as we go through? We're going to keep this
Rodney,
pod
11 minutes ago, that's 8:45. So let me scroll down and find Rodney again because he's given enough stars. He's got a comment with this one. We want to make sure that we show this one tonight for sure. So I would love to see Von Miller get another Super Bowl run. I sure will miss his sack dances. I'm rooting for the Rams in the NFC. And, I've said this a lot, and you guys have heard me, roll my eyes or see me roll my eyes at the forced parity of the NFL and the 17-game season and the fact that a lot of these teams are just coasting along. This is a good example to me. Von Miller, he's catching heck for not doing much with the Rams. Von Miller was not brought in to play week 14 and 15. Right. Von Miller was there to play in the playoffs. Von Miller is like, hey, Sean McVay's like, hey, we're going to be fine. We're going to make the playoffs. Keep yourself healthy. Be rested. Be ready. Von looked ready.
Same for OBJ. They made those two big pickups, and it's hard to come into a team right away and perform to your caliber. It's more than just stepping on a football field. You have to mesh with the players. You have to get the chemistry down. That takes a while. OBJ is making plays in the playoffs. Von is now too. I don't see them getting past Green Bay, but I do have LA beating Tampa Bay this week, and I hope Von sacks Brady one more time at least.
I don't know how good Green Bay's defense is, and that I'm not. That's not like me questioning their defense. That's me questioning me. I really don't know how. I haven't watched the Packers a ton.
Pretty stout
to know if their defense is good enough to be one of those teams this year.
Well, they picked up Rasul Douglas, the cornerback, like earlier this year, and that was a revelation. He single-handedly won them games. I think they're getting back Zadarius Smith, the linebacker. When they're on, they're not like just 2,000 Ravens, but as a counterpart to that offense, that's a championship-level team completely. So it's going to be a good game, I think, LA versus Green Bay in the NFC title game if it reaches that point.
Doug's in here somewhere if I can find him. They always ask us, hey, how was your experience with StreamYard? Not that y'all really care. I said, give me a filter so I can find these guys. I want to sort it by Facebook and show Doug. Doug coming in with some big stars. Big stars! Saying, thanks for your hard work. Thanks for being here. Y'all make it worth it. Again, if it weren't for y'all, there's no reason for us to be here. So we're here. We're here because you're here. And that we can't thank you enough for that. It's extremely humbling. Humbling to me, especially as an outsider of sorts, to be able to come in. And we're working on a year. It was about a year ago, Zach. I came and did my first appearance on MHH with you and Chad, talking a little draft.
It's been a year already? Wow. Time flies, man. We got I think that's a new name, Shane Tumaniello.
Shane Tumaniello. Shane's been on, I recognize the name recently, so newer, at least to me. Sometimes people come and go, and they come back. They may not have been a while, but Shane coming in again. So Dan Quinn is a Teddy Bridgewater of head coaches. If Peyton hires him, then we're all bamboozled by Peyton.
I don't know that I can agree with that. I mean, in terms of personality, they are completely opposite. Teddy Bridgewater was the Vic Fangio of quarterbacks. Dan Quinn.
But Teddy actually is a really good leader. He's just a quiet guy behind the scenes that, he'll stay behind, and say, hey, he's not going to do stuff for the cameras. You're not going to see the hooping and hollering for him. He's going to say, okay, you dropped that pass. Let's stay together after practice and work on it. By the way, how's the family? That's Teddy Bridgewater. Vic Fangio was selfish. Vic Fangio didn't connect with anybody. Teddy connected with everybody on his teammates. He might not have connected with the fans or put forth that public persona, but he absolutely connects with his teammates. You see him win, Nice Guy of the Year award in his first year with the Broncos. So again, Quinn is a little bit more goofy, corny, cheesy. He's, more rah-rah type, which works really well when you're winning and it's going well. But when it doesn't, that stuff just kind of creates you. It's like, dude, I don't want to hear rise up and in brotherhood and all this other crap. Go win a football game. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So to me, they're when you say Dan Quinn is a Teddy Bridgewater of head coaches, that's when you're talking about he's mediocre. That's, he's 500. Meh. Okay, maybe he's an improvement, but can't we do better? Can we do better than that?
I wouldn't even call Teddy Bridgewater mediocre. I think he was below average, and I never got the impression that he loved football, and I think Dan Quinn loves football. So I would say Dan Quinn is the Kyle Orton of head coaches, more so than Teddy Bridgewater. You can tread water, you can get by, but are you ever going to win it all with Dan Quinn as your head coach? That's the question. You should have, yeah. But
we rattled off earlier in the week. We rattled off that coaching staff that he had in 2016.
Crazy.
Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel. I mean, that was a hell of a staff.
Those are three head coaches.
Raheem Morris, could be a head coach again in a couple of weeks. And if your concern was, can he put together a staff? Did he just get lucky? Did he just luck into that one? Why wasn't Matt Rule elevated? And this is what I meant to look into. Why wasn't Matt Rule elevated to? Did Shanahan must have taken him with him? He didn't go directly to a head coaching job from Atlanta, did he? In 2017, why wasn't Matt Rule the offensive coordinator in 2017 instead of bringing in a disgraced former college coach and Steve Sarkisian?
It's just, for me, it's hard to give Quinn much credit for that Super Bowl team. It wasn't the defense, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, it wasn't the defense that got them there. It was the offense and Matt Ryan. The defense blew the game, 28-3. It was Dan Quinn's defense.
Yeah,
and the coaching.
they were weak in the trenches. That was the hallmark of a Thomas Dimitroff team. Their defense got it together towards the end. So the last 4 weeks of the season and through the playoffs, the defense played really, really well, way over their heads. Vic Beasley had a flash in the pan season where he had about 16 sacks his whole career, and he had about 16 sacks that season, and then he was gone again. So the defense did play really, really well up until that point. But they ran out of gas. They couldn't run the ball, and they couldn't stop people when it mattered, and that was the hallmark of a Thomas Dimitroff team, whether it was Mike Smith or Dan Quinn. So, again, I don't blame the coaches for the problems that the Atlanta Falcons had.
I liked Mike Smith. I thought he was a pretty good coach for a while.
Mike Smith is all-time winning. His winning percentage is like 700. That's like that's like a 950 winning percentage at real franchises.
Shane's clarifying. He said, when I said Dan Quinn is the Teddy of head coaches, I'm referring to him being the perceived safe pick, and that I agree with for sure. I mean, you're just going the conservative route and going for the floor and not going for the ceiling, and that's the whole argument you can make against the Dan Quinn potential hire.
Yep, we've got a couple more good-sized contributions we've got to get to before we get out of here tonight. We're only 45, and we just started late because these guys are always late. Michael Rankulis, it's a great show tonight. Zach and Scott on Mile Huddle. Go Broncos. Appreciate your support, Michael. We'll upgrade stars again, and we'll do the whole month. And the way you've come on so strong here in the last week, if you're not at the top, you're definitely top 3. And then Colby C. Collier has come in. I'm going by a YouTube one. I'm Paul coming in with a super here saying Bills, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Tennessee, anybody but Quinn, playoff results. I don't get that one.
I think some punctuation would be helpful, but I just think he's talking that Dan
Bills
he doesn't want Quinn.
Tampa wins, San Francisco and Tennessee, period. And then anybody but Quinn. Zach and Scott, great show. Thank you, sir. I've got probably, and I don't feel good about these at all. I like Tennessee. I think Tennessee should win, but wouldn't surprise me. The only one that would surprise me is if the 49ers win. That's the only game, if the 49ers win, that would be a surprise to me. Everything else is pretty open for me. Nothing else would say, oh yeah, that was a real shock. If the 49ers win again, that would be a shock to me. Everything else is should be pretty close.
Though, if they get a good game by Jimmy G and that running attack gets going, Kyle Shanahan can scheme up with the best of them. And I really like what DeMeco Ryans is doing as the 49ers defensive coordinator. I mean, they threw the book at Dallas and they made them ordinary last week. So I'd be surprised. I don't know that I would be like shocked or stunned if they won that game. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and for me, it's basically anybody but the Bucks. I don't want to see Tom Brady anymore. I've had enough. Enough's enough.
Preach.
And, Tampa, you won it last year. You had your turn. Now, congratulations. It's your second in your history. They're not exactly a sparkling franchise through the history of the NFL either. You won one. Now, let's let somebody else do it. Enough Tom Brady. Enough.
Colby, rooting for the Rams and the Bills. All of Wyoming is rooting for Josh Allen. Did you guys see the interview he had on the Pat McAfee show where they asked him, Pat McAfee did, about not getting the respect, and Josh Allen goes, it'd be nice, but I don't give two bleeps about that. I love that type of quarterback, man. He is great, and I wish it wasn't the Bills versus Kansas City, because if they were playing in more of an inferior team, I'd say the Bills have a clear path to the Super Bowl, and I would be rooting for them, but I see them running into a buzzsaw nicknamed Patty Mahomes.
You go look at Matt Stafford's reference page, and he hasn't been to a Pro Bowl. That shocked me. I couldn't believe that Matt Stafford hadn't been to a Pro Bowl. And then I looked at his contracts through the years. Yeah, Matt doesn't care. Matt's got about $250 million. He's gotten respected by the people that matter, which is the ones that were signing his check, and the ones that then made a big deal to bring him to LA because they thought they could win him a Super Bowl. Josh, it's like, until I win the big one, it doesn't really matter, and none of that matters. The respect, that only matters come payday, and right. Who's writing the checks.
And for your ego.
Otherwise, the rest of that stuff's nonsense.
What's not nonsense, though, is this amazingly generous super by EJ, $50. Thank you so much, EJ. That's incredible, and it helps keep the lights on, as Chad likes to say, and it's definitely true, and your support helps us do that, so we are forever indebted to you in more ways than one. But EJ goes, I appreciate you guys, and as a Scott Age season ticket holder, I don't care who is hired, just that it is truly an open and wide search. Scott, you were mentioned there, so I'm going to give you first dibs.
Yeah, that means if he's been a season ticket holder for a while, I think the first time I ever got season tickets was '98. So you could have been season ticket holder for a long time. And you want, again, all I ask for, and Denver's a little different because you guys have had championships. But what I look for out of teams I've coached, my kids, teams I root for, is put forth the best damn effort, and I can support that. You might not necessarily succeed. That's what competition is. But do your best and be honest about it. And if you're doing that and it doesn't work out, well, you still have me. I'm still here for you. When you start getting dishonest, then that's when you start losing me. So, as EJ says, I really just want it to be an open and wide search and make sure that they feel that they've done their due diligence to bring in the best guy. And if then it's Dan Quinn, then EJ is going to support him.
I just love the unit of measure that EJ uses. Not 10 years, 20 years, a Scott Age season ticket holder. So the Deacon is getting called out tonight for his age. But we appreciate you, EJ, for sure.
You hope you look this good in 20 years.
That's right, baby. All right, we got KB82. He got my interest. What's up, Zack? What did you think about that local news piece rightly trashing Fangio for not giving Locke a legit shot? I didn't see that, but I would love...
Did you see that? Was that yours, Zack? Mm-mm. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking a little, kind of.
Oh, I see. I got it. I'm a little slow on the uptake tonight, Scott. But no, I didn't see that, guys. KB, let me know what it said, or if you guys have a link, I would love to check that out. But too little, too late. I mean, he's not the head coach anymore, and Locke is on the outside looking in terms of being a starter, but he should be getting criticism because it's one thing to go with Teddy. It's another thing, and I'll say this for the last time, it's beating a dead horse, to openly detest your quarterback the way Vic Fangio did. It was unprofessional, and it was ridiculous, quite frankly.
So one of my wife's friends is going through a divorce, and her soon-to-be ex-husband has a wicked bad ego, enough so that her former stepkids, yes, there's lots of divorces that go around, were texting her about what her dad was doing, her real dad was doing, and she sent back, "Your dad's ego is no longer my problem." That's how we feel about Vic Fangio. What Vic Fangio did is no longer our problem. It's a fresh start. And Locke, by God, work your butt off and take advantage of it.
I'm so happy he's not our problem anymore. I can't tell you how happy I am about that. But we got Andrew hopping in. Grew up just north of Cincy, so I hope it's Bengals versus Green Bay for Super Bowl. This playoffs is exciting, though. You know what? I'm a fan of the Bengals, man. I love what Burrow's doing, what Zack Taylor's doing, and Brian Callahan. If there's any dark horse in this head coaching search for the Broncos, I think it could be Callahan. No, he doesn't call the plays, but he's overseen the development of a quarterback that was still a little raw coming into the league, even though he was the number one overall pick, and he's involved in weekly game planning, scheming. He's involved in the nuts and bolts of that offense, and I'm there with you, Scott. Like, they're not going to get past, I think, the Bills or Kansas City, but I'm rooting for Cincinnati. That's my Cinderella team.
Tennessee. Prove that Tennessee was a fraud. That'd be okay with me. And again, Cincinnati, if the Detroit Lions ever make it to the playoffs again, most of its neutrals will root for the Detroit Lions just because they haven't been there. We'd like to see them have some success. They deserve it. I feel that way a little bit about Cincinnati. And Jamar Chase is a beast. Yeah. I said it before. I've said it on here before. I don't hear any more Mac Jones Rookie of the Year nonsense. It better go to Jamar Chase for that. Michael comes in and says, I've got the Packers winning the Super Bowl. It feels right, but why haven't they won more? Do they have the team to do it this year? Or are they going to Dallas Cowboy it and spit the bit when it matters the most? Rodney says, who will have more sacks, Barrett or Miller?
I don't know. That's tough. I'm going to say Shaq Barrett. I think the Bucs are playing the Rams, so that Stafford is more sackable than Tom Brady would be, and I just think Shaq is a little more explosive off the edge right now. I know it's weird to say because they were teammates and Vaughn was the man back then, but Vaughn, listen, I was the first one that thought after they traded him and what he did in the regular, I thought he was a little washed. I'm just saying, I'll own up to that, but he's finding his groove. Like I said, playoff Vaughn is activated. I think he'll have a sack, but I think Barrett could get multiple sacks. So that's my
Yeah,
prediction.
I mean, I guarantee there was a conversation in there of Vaughn, be ready for the playoffs. Get your mind right, get your body right, and be ready for the playoffs. I guarantee you that was implied, if not flat out stated. Appreciate you, Rodney. And Phil coming in. Phil coming in saying, evening, Zach and Deacon Scott. One step below Priest. Thank you. Thank you. I don't, like I said, there's too many rules.
Thank you for
religion
reinforcing that, Phil.
too many rules for religion for me. So I appreciate the education. He says he attended Woodstock. Tells everyone where my mind went. He said not a fan of Quinn, but hope whoever they get brings a staff to help all areas. Again, it should get better for sure. The problem is if it gets better, if you don't get the right guys, it could quickly start going south again. You're going to get a bump no matter what, because the guys will be excited and they'll be ready to play and they'll be trying to earn jobs again instead of being pigeonholed into their little spaces under the previous staff. So you're going to get a new coach bump regardless. I feel confident in saying that.
I'll say it again. If they hire Dan Quinn, the OC hire is infinitely more important than the Quinn hire. They have to get that right. And not just get that right, they better hit a home run. If they're going against the grain for a third time in a row with the defensive-minded head coach, you better get me that young, creative, bright offensive mind. I don't care if it's Luke Getsy. I don't care if it's Mike McDaniel. But if you settle for like Darrell Bevel as the OC, I'm out. I'm out completely. So that's they got to get that right.
So Ladron Bledsoe, there's a new name for us, comes in and says, Chad and Scott, do you think that this weekend's playoff games will impact the coaching decision? I'd say right off the bat, no, unless something absolutely weird happens, like somebody striking a player, or doing something that basically crosses them off the board because it became a national story of embarrassment. So no, it's not going to. You can't. Success, or I was looking at the Cowboys game. If I liked Kellen Moore before, I wouldn't cross him off the list because of a mistake at the end of a game. Correct the mistake. Okay, don't ever do that again. I'm going to hire you, and if you do that again, I'm going to fire you. But I like everything else you do. So no, I don't think it really has any impact at all.
I'm looking around. I don't really see Chad anywhere. I see Scott, but it's not gonna. It's not going to impact them. They have who they want in mind. And to your point, I think what you were trying to intimate there is you can't judge one guy off one body, off one game. You have to judge him by the whole body of work. And that's the thing with Quinn. That's why if they still want him, he would pretty much be the third or fourth option if you're going by a per game basis, like the most recent action for that coach. But they're going by the whole body of work. So you mentioned striking a player. What was Bruce Arians thinking? He beat the hell out of that guy. It's crazy.
It was, well, if it was just the head slap, that wasn't too bad. But you can't do it. You do that to a quarterback, they're going to throw a flag on you and fine you. So again, I don't mind. What I can't stand is hypocrisy. So I don't like pass interference rules because offensive guys are allowed to get away with stuff that the defensive guys are never allowed to get away with. It's like if you see an offensive guy tackle the defender who's in a better position, they don't call pass interference. Like if that had been the other way around, that definitely would have been pass interference. In 727 mil, I think we all hope they get it figured out, and then we can start talking about roster building and roster supplementing. Steve coming with some stars. Appreciate you, Steve. Thank you for the support. And Michael says these stars are for you, Scott, and Broncos for breakfast. Thank you. We have a good time doing Broncos for breakfast. I'm glad that was something we got started. It's going really well. And Rodney says I'm rooting for Josh Allen because he's from my hometown, Fireball. Now
that's a cool town.
It sounds like what you want to do to the Michigan head coach almost. Fireball. I got the Bills repping the AFC deep in the playoffs. I tell you what, they look the most impressive for sure in the opening round. Can they sustain it? Yeah, I think they can. I like my cross sport references, and you get a hot goalie in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Well, you know what's better than a hot goalie is a hot quarterback. And if Josh Allen plays like that, nobody's beating him. Nobody.
Exactly. If they don't have a letdown, if they fire on all cylinders, that's the Super Bowl, I think, favorite. So I'm a big Josh Allen fan. I love what Brian Daboll has done with that offense, and I love Sean McDermott, who's a true leader of men. This is not an offensive-minded head coach. This is what Vic Fangio should have been. This is what we were praying for Vic to evolve into, is what Sean McDermott is. So I'm a big fan of them. I just think, though, Kansas City is still Kansas City. We'll see, though.
Andrew says, if Scott knows Ohio, I grew up in Dayton. I was born in Akron, and I lived in Columbus for 2 years. I was a kid, but yeah, I know Ohio pretty well. Plus, I was a director of scouting for national, and there are a lot of good players in Ohio. So I was actually born up there. So I know Dayton. We flew into Dayton. We were going to Cincinnati because the flights were better and cheaper. So done a lot of traveling over this great country of ours. I've been probably most of your states, except Montana and the Dakotas. I have not been there. Or up to Boston. Boston's the biggest city I have not been to, but I've probably been everywhere else in most of your states before. One of the benefits of being an old guy like me.
A Scott aged kind of guy. But did we hit everything, Scott? That
we're pretty close. There's Jacob just keeps firing them. Just keeps firing them, and Michael Ranquillo keeps coming in, and Rodney. Those guys are just on fire for sure. So otherwise, I think we're pretty well caught up. There was one thing I got a comment. So pay attention now, Zach.
Yeah,
I got a comment from a user in our after the fact, and it said, "I can see the future in Scott's forehead." So let me know. I'm going to get close. Can you see who the Broncos are going to hire or who they're going to take in the draft pick? Or was this just him?
I foresee a bald-headed, 51-year-old defensive mind. I foresee Dan.
No, that's
Quinn.
Me. That's me.
That's funny, though. You have a good sense of humor, at least, Scott. Self-deprecation to me is very endearing, so I'm definitely all about that. I want to just tack on to what Jason's saying right here. A bunch of you guys are asking about this. Why didn't the Broncos interview Brian Daboll? It's a mystery, man. I don't know why they didn't interview Brian Daboll, Byron Leftwich. They left some meat on the bone in this head coaching search, and they wasted that on Gannon and Glenn and Mayo, but Mayo could have been for a DC job, but...
Some of those position guys might be for coordinator positions.
It could have been where they knew Daboll was going to get a job elsewhere. I think he's a finalist for Chicago or Indianapolis or the Giants. He's going to get a job this cycle, or Paton might not have been impressed with what he's done or just didn't deem him a quality candidate. So we don't really know why, but we know they haven't.
Yeah, there's a lot of good candidates out there, and again, like I said, it's just going to be a little anticlimactic if it is Dan Quinn. There's plenty of reasons to be excited, but I don't feel like you're getting the fresh start you deserve if that's the way it goes.
Yeah, for sure. We got a late super from John Clay Eventing, $9.99. Thank you so much, John, at the buzzer. Josh Allen graduated from my alma mater, and he graduated with my son. Huge Bills fan. Broncos first, however. Great show, guys. Well, at least you have a good team to fall back on, John. Don't let you down every year like the Broncos do, but it's really easy to root for the Bills, I feel like. Good coaching staff, good quarterback play, a team that's been tortured in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. If they get past Kansas City, I'm rooting for the Bills to go all the way, for sure.
As an Atlanta Braves fan, I feel like we have kindred spirits in Buffalo. They're one of the few teams that get what we've been through, similar situations. And the Braves pulled it off this year in 2021. So could this be the year the Buffalo Bills exercise all of those demons as well? And there's a phrase in media and scouting and stuff that says that you stop rooting for the names on the front of the jerseys and you start rooting on the names for the back. And when you see a player like this that grow up, you're a fan of his for life. It doesn't matter where he goes, and that's always kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's going to do it, though, guys, for tonight's Huddle Up podcast. I think the comment section is winding down, and we're caught up on supers and Facebook stars. So appreciate you guys tuning in with us. It was a whole week of Scott and I on the Huddle Up podcast. I think we survived. We're alive, and we're breathing, and the sun's still shining, so it's all good. I think Chad's coming back on Sunday, though, Sunday night, so be sure to look out for that. In the meantime, though, guys, follow us on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. You can follow the main account at Mile High Huddle. You can follow Scott on Twitter, as you can see, at Scout Kennedy. You can follow myself at Kelberman NFL. If you haven't, unlike Scott, go to huddleuppod.com and get yourself a football priest hat, get yourself a beanie, get yourself a shirt, and or something that Scott's about to show off right now. Is that a beanie? It's a Broncos for breakfast beanie. So
it's backwards.
Yeah, you can get one of those too. All at the store. Looks good. It's comfortable. I promise you that. We have a Huddle Up Pod beanie as well. HuddleUpPod.com right now. Check that out. Also, Facebook.com/MileHighHuddle. Hit that big blue button for instant access to our VIP programming, Kelberman's Corner, Broncos Book Club, and Trickle Zone each and every week. And Facebook.com/MileHighHuddlePod. Like that page. Follow that page. And if you haven't, guys, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest and the deacon a 5-star review for a chance to win some swag each and every single freaking month. But if you can't do those things, please, guys, these 3 things takes a few seconds. Subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. Scott, it helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like y'all. Any last comments tonight?
Yeah, just make sure that we come in and see Dove Valley Deep Divers tomorrow night. So if you're Friday night, if it's too cold to go outside, the weather's got you down, make sure you come in and see Dove Valley Deep Divers tomorrow night at 6 Mountain Time.
And Mile High Insiders, I believe. I don't know who's doing it this week. I know it's like Luke and Nick, and it's like constantly a rotating host cycle, but Mile High Insiders on Saturday night, and then you have a new episode of the Huddle Up Podcast. We'll be returning to you on Sunday night. 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend. And as always, go Broncos.